7 p.m. Christie, would you please call the roll?
Yep. Trustee Porter?
Here.
Trustee Kemper?
Here.
Trustee Bancole? Here. Trustee Prigi?
Here.
Trustee Husani?
Here.
Trustee Gutierrez? Here. We've established a quorum.
Very, thank you. Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance and remain standing for a moment of silence. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. If you would, please take a moment of silence to remember Chick Graffy. Chick Graffy, when I came to town, was deeply seated in Hanover Park baseball, football. He basically opened those fields up for many, many years. He was a mentor to many who went on to future coaching and a friend to most. After his sons had moved on, he worked on a volunteer basis with Hoffman Estates High School with coaching young men and through the years. And anybody that's lived in Hanover Park for any length of time at all knows the name of Chick Graffy. So if you would, please take a moment of remembrance. Thank you. All right. We have a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Hearing no changes. Christie, please call the roll.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole? Yes. Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez? Yes. Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Motion passed.
Thank you. I now have, do we have the officers here for the Life Saving Award?
Am I on now? Yep. All right, good evening all. Very proud tonight to be presenting a life-saving award to 3 of our police officers. In 2017, we began a project of equipping all of our squad cars with automatic external defibrillators, and we completed that in 2018. Our goal was to have all marked cars equipped with one. We were able to obtain a grant from ComEd under their Powering Safe Communities grant to obtain some, and then we purchased the rest to get us up to 16. So now all of our marked squad cars have had AEDs inside them. When we first started the program, we said if we just get one save, it'll be worth it. And now I know we've had a couple of successful deployments. And, in the course of your career, I don't think there's anything more important that you could be a part of than having someone still be on the planet because of actions that you took. So we're very proud of these officers, and we want to recognize them. So if I could have Officer Justin Winkler, Officer Oscar Morales, and Officer Ryan Rohde, please come up. And I'll ask the mayor to read their certificate, and then in addition to that, the officers will get ribbons they can wear in their uniform for the rest of their careers. So we're very proud of you.
They're long careers, I hope. Gentlemen, thank you. We really appreciate it. It's the model that we aspire to, that we expect, and that you provide the leadership for out in the field. Thank you very much. On May 28, 2021, Officer Oscar Morales was dispatched to 5740 Ring Court for the report of a male who had collapsed and was not conscious or breathing. Officers Winkler, Morales, and Rohde arrived and found the patient lying on the kitchen floor. Officer Winkler started chest compressions while Officer Morales prepared an AED. Officer Rohde took over the chest compressions while Officer Winkler affixed the AED pads to the patient. After analyzing the patient, the AED administered a shock. Officer Rode continued chest compressions until the Hanover Park Fire Department paramedics took over the resuscitation efforts. The patient was later transported to the hospital where he made a recovery, and the patient returned home after having to undergo surgery to have a pacemaker internal defibrillator implanted. The Hanover Park Fire Department paramedics confirmed that the actions of Officer Winkler, Officer Morales, and Officer Rode kept blood flowing to the patient's heart, which assisted in the possibility of revival. Officer Morales is being recognized for his quick action and heroic efforts which helped save the life of a resident. I can't thank you guys enough. You know, we can provide the equipment, we can provide the training, but your action, your turn to save a resident while we're waiting for the paramedics to arrive. And I understand that. You guys are on the street, you're reacting, you're there. And your efforts were superb. So thank you very much. Get us in? Okay. Well wishes to the board, if you would. Thank you very much. Congratulations. Great job. Good work. Good work, sir. Good work. Well done. Well done. I often say that anything worth doing is worth doing right. And we've just seen an example of that and shared that and acknowledge that this evening. Thank you, Chief, for bringing that forward. We do appreciate that. It's nice to have board members acknowledge and understand that our investment in our police and fire are carried out in an exceptional way. So, what's next on my agenda? Oh, presentation, comprehensive annual financial report.
I move that we change the order of that and do the Indian presentation before we do the comprehensive annual
Okay.
report.
We can do that. Okay, I have a proclamation, if you don't mind. My proclamation, whereas on August 15th, 1947, India gained its independence from the British Empire. And whereas the Indian Independence Act of 1947 was approved by the British Parliament, which allowed the Constituent Assembly of India to write the Constitution of India, marking the beginning of India's independence after many years of British rule. And whereas the Indian independent movement was led by Mahatma Gandhi, Jawaharlal Nehru, and Sardar Patel. And through their message of nonviolence and civil disobedience, they inspired civil rights leaders from around the world. And whereas diversity is one of Hanover Park's greatest strengths, and Hanover Park is proud to be home to the large Indian American population who contribute greatly to the social, economic, and civic health of the village. And whereas the village of Hanover Park joins with our Indian American community in celebrating India's independence. Now therefore I, Rodney S. Craig, President of the Village of Hanover Park, do hereby recognize August 15, 2021 as the 75th Independence Day in the Village of Hanover Park, and I call this observance to the attention of all residents. Thank you. Okay. Our comprehensive annual financial report, if you would, please.
Mayor, do you want to present that to say?
Pardon me? The lady that asked me to provide that is not here this evening. Okay?
Thank you, Mr. President.
Yes.
Thanks, everyone, for your time tonight. Want us to start off by thanking Juliana, Remy, Linda, and the entire staff for all of their assistance throughout the entire audit process. We were remote again, 100% this year. I thought things went really well again this year. We were able to meet all of our key deadlines and get the reports out on time. So I want to thank them for their efforts in making this audit so successful. What I'd like to do is just point out in the table of contents just kind of what's in the report. It's a long report, 169 pages, so just briefly go through what's in the report in the table of contents. Point out the independent auditor's report, the management discussion and analysis, and then talk briefly on the board communication report. So in the table of contents, there's three main sections: the introductory section, the financial section, and then the statistical section. I'll point out we don't give an opinion on the introductory section or the statistical section. The main section is the financial section, so we give in relation to opinions or full opinions on those financial statements. Two things in the financial section that we don't give an opinion on is management discussion and analysis, and then the required supplementary information, or RSI. We do some limited procedures, but not enough to give an opinion on that. So just want to point that out. So in the financial section, the independent auditor's report, management discussion and analysis are the first two reports. After that are the basic financial statements. There's two statements, the government-wide financial statements. There's the statement of net position, or your balance sheet, and then the statement of activities, which is the income statement. These are your consolidated financial statements for the village, so they have all of the funds of the village except for the police and fire pension funds. They're broken out by governmental activities, which are all of your governmental funds, and then the business type activities are shown separately. That's the water and sewer and the parking fund. And then after that, that's the primary government, and then the discretely presented component unit is Hanover Square. That's shown separately in a separate column. These have a long-term focus, so they've got capital assets, they've got long-term debt, similar to corporate financial statements. Now, right after that, the governmental funds are a little bit different. They're shown by major fund, and then all the non-major funds are added up and aggregated into one column. They have a short-term focus, so there's no capital assets, no long-term debt, just focused on current spendable resources, similar to how you budget. And then on pages 9 and 11, there's a reconciliation that will get you from that short-term focus to that long-term focus. After that are the proprietary fund financial statements. These have the same long-term focus. They just have a little more detail, and there's a statement of cash flows. And then after that, the last part of the basic financial statements before the footnotes are the fiduciary funds. Again, that's the police pension fund and the fire pension fund combined. If you want to see the individual statements for those funds, they're on pages 134 to 137. Then after that are the notes to the financial statements, so a whole lot of additional information from pages 19 to 77 that provide additional support for the basic financial statements, and they should be read in conjunction with them. After that is the required supplementary information that I mentioned before. This has budget versus actual reports for your general fund and then any of your major special revenue funds. So that's going to be your motor fuel tax and then your tax increment financing number 3 fund. And then after that, additional information on your participation in IMRF, the IMRF Sheriff's Law Enforcement Plan, police pension, firefighter pension, and the other post-employment benefit plans. So a lot of additional information on your retiree health and then your pension funds. After that are the combining and individual fund financial statements, a lot of additional detailed and budget versus actual schedules that are on pages 95 through 138. And then the very last part is the stats section. You can see that's broken out into 4 sections: financial trends, revenue capacity, debt capacity, demographic and economic information, and operating info, so 5 categories. So a whole lot of additional information there, probably more interesting to the non-accountant. There's a lot of 10-year trend information, a lot of good data in there. So that's what's in the report. Just the two things I want to point out in the comprehensive annual financial report is the independent auditor's report, because these are the 3 pages that we prepare and we're responsible for as auditors. Management's responsible for the rest of the comprehensive annual financial report, and those responsibilities are explained on page 1. And then page 2, up at the very top, is the opinion paragraph. Again, this year we issued an unmodified opinion, which is the highest level of assurance that we can provide to the village. And then right after the independent auditor's report is management discussion and analysis. This is prepared by Remy. It provides a great overview of the village's financial position and the changes in financial position. It'll point out any significant changes or trends that might be occurring during the year. And it has some 2-year comparative data that you can't find elsewhere in the report. So if I tell you every year, if you only want to read one thing in the 169-page report, read the MD&A, because it provides a good overview of the village's financial position. That's all I have on the comprehensive annual financial report. Want to point out our auditor's communication to the Board of Trustees. And again, in the table of contents, there's some required communication that we have to have with the board each year. That's on pages 2 through 4. Pretty routine communication this year. We didn't have any disagreements with management. There's no delays in the audit, like I said. We did communicate that we implemented GASB statement number 95, which delayed the implementation of some other pronouncements due to the pandemic. But other than that, pretty routine communication there. After that, we're required to communicate any audit adjusting journal entries that we found. Those are on pages 5 and 6. And then after that, what we normally show are what we call past adjusting journal entries. These were entries that we deemed to be immaterial, but above a certain floor, we have to communicate those to you. So we didn't have any past adjustments, so everything that needed to be adjusted was adjusted in those AJEs on pages 5 and 6. And then the management letter starts on page 7, and if you turn to page 8, this basically says in writing on page 8 that we had no material weaknesses. We also had no significant deficiencies and no deficiencies this year. And we had just one, what we call an other comment, that's in the communication of deficiencies in internal control and other comments to management report. Other than that, be happy to answer any questions on these reports. We also issued a single audit report because you expended more than $750,000 in federal funds this year. And then report an in relation to opinion on the Illinois Grant Accountability and Transparency Act, or GATA. We have to give an in relation to opinion on your consolidated year-end financial report. So we issued a report for that. So be happy to answer any questions on any of those reports.
Any questions of the board?
There was one thing that came up in the report where it talked about a balance or a lack of a balance or uneven balance in the TIF, 2 of the TIF districts. Can you explain that? I'm trying to...
I saw that too, so good question.
To locate it. I printed it out and left it on my printer at home.
I think it might have been...
I think the TIF is underwater at the moment.
Yeah, I think you're... I think you're talking about...
Special revenue, underfund tax increment financing, number 4.
Yeah.
And number 5, it shows a deficit. And the recommendation is management should develop a plan for eliminating these fund deficits. Can you clarify that for me?
Yeah, so that was a prior year comment that we had that was carried forward, but it was implemented this year. So basically, those funds
It's been
don't have
cured?
those. Yeah, they don't have deficit balances anymore.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good. Any other questions of the board? Well, thank you.
Great.
For
Yeah.
being
Thanks,
here
everyone.
this evening. I'm trying to determine if Remy's smiling or frowning. I see a smile. Okay.
Yeah, thanks everyone for your time today.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very good. Town hall. Anyone for town hall? And you have
We
a
have,
message received?
yeah, we have 2. So I'll read the message first that was submitted from Omar Sanchez back July 16th. So it was right after our last board meeting. He would like to address the dangerous S-curve on Walnut Avenue on a residential street that is frequently being used as an alternate route to Irving Park by rushed drivers. Traffic is increasing during peak hours and the driving speed is erratic. So I did send this over to Chief Minot, and he has taken care of that and put extra officers out there during those peak times. And then we do have one, Noman Azimi here. You can come on up, and you have 5 minutes.
Sure. Thank you very much, Mayor, for giving us encouragement and having leadership from immigrant community to come and serve Hanover Park. I'm here representing Hanover Park residents and business community. A couple of the things I would like to start is, in last couple of board meetings, we talked about youth committee and commission and initiatives. I'm a part of an organization which is yet international. We go by youth empowerment through transformation. There's a difference between transformation and change. Change is permanent. Transformation is larva to butterfly. So once you are transformed, you never come back. So we need to transform our youth. If you would like, I would like to volunteer and would like to get interviewed for whatever the leadership role is, so we can implement, me and my team, we can hire consultant and work on it. So please do consider, whenever you guys are considering youth initiative, strategy planning, I'd like to be part of that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate you coming tonight.
Thank you. The second thing on my agenda is, we are a diverse village, and my residential has brought this up to me multiple times, that in a South Asian week, there were only 5 Indian American who were not from this town, were getting award from Hanover Park, Schaumburg, and other ones. So these are the people. I am a South Asian, I'm an Indian and Pakistani. So if we are talking about diverse, Mr. Mayor and board member, you know that there are a huge number of Pakistani than Indians. So if you're talking about diversification, Pakistani representative are more or equal. So once you are going Asian week, first of all, there's Asian, South Asian, Chinese were under attack. You cannot find one single resident or a businessman. It's hard to find. Secondly, you are going for Independence Day of India. You guys, if don't know the history of Pakistan and India, how we feel about each other, we love each other, but at the same time, if you're going to recognize one country, independence, what about the other residents? So please do review it and bring it back as Independence Day for 14th August, Pakistan. I can write a better letter than that about the Independence Day of Pakistan and India. So we don't have that rage in you already have created while you just avoided people outside this town. So this is the voice of Hanover Park people, and I am very much passionate about their voice. Second thing, I've been through my own personal journey of experiencing Hanover Park Township, POC, shelter, the food pantry, and sorry to say, it's not catered to South Asians. I went out there, I was hungry. I was literally hungry. I was looking to get something, and all I see is meat, which is not kosher, or the grocery, which is, I don't eat it. I'm already in a trauma. I'm already in a trouble, and now you want me to go and sacrifice something, my food? So I have talked to already the restaurants around here. Just give me a place. If you cannot, my business community will support me. Let's start feeding. Let's start putting the food out there from these people. Anybody can walk in and get it. And I have a lot of other ideas when I was going through this whole journey. God wants me to go through this so I can raise the voice of South Asians. So please, that is a really pressing issue. We don't have a shelter home. And I was told, go to all the way to Page, 1 hour, stand in the line, 4 o'clock, hoping that I will be under 100 people. No, that's not how you guys treat your residential. I'm in a trauma. I'm already hungry. I'm on the streets, and now you want me to go and out there? Come on, man. This is not how you treat people who are in the trauma. Talking about the trauma, you go to Walgreens, you get a pain. I'm a writer, so I'm writing book, my 7th book, Power of Subconscious Mind. We are a combination of hardware and software. You go to Walgreens, you get a pain for every hardware problem. Knee pain, health pain, every pain. There is no aisle for stress, depression, and all that. So please do consider that in that one. And the last but not least, I'm extremely sorry to say I worked with Bartlett Area Chamber for a while. I'm going to try to sugarcoat it, but I'm not. They are least interested in Hanover Park Chamber. If it is initiative month or year, try to put it separate than Bartlett area, otherwise. Sorry. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. My report is, this year is the 20th year of, since 9/11 hit, and I believe there is something we should acknowledge on the 20th year of 9/11. And I haven't had any conversation concerning that. If a board member would like to have some ideas, or as a municipality, I'd like to acknowledge our police and fire and those that were impacted by the 9/11 event. We have a flag on the wall where all our employees and board members back then signed off on, and it needs to be acknowledged in our community somehow, some way. And I don't have all the answers, but we must do something, and 9/11 this year is on a Saturday, so let's give it some consideration.
So Mayor, just so the board knows, we are doing our annual event on 9/11, so we will actually be having it on Saturday. It will be at 9 o'clock. I believe it's been put on all of your calendars, and it will be at Fire Station 1. So.
You know, I'd like to add, I'm as big a supporter of our first responders as anyone on this board. I think that they run into danger when others run away, and I applaud them for what they do. But there were a lot of civilian heroes on 9/11, and with this being the 20th year commemoration, I'd like to see some space given that we recognize those civilians that lost their lives, because they always seem to be absent in our ceremony. And if we can somehow work that into it, where we recognize the tremendous civilian loss of lives, but also the civilian heroes. I mean, there were public works people and construction workers and all kind of people who are still suffering the effects from the contamination that happened during that event. And I think that, especially during the 20th year commemoration, I'd like to see some space given to recognize their sacrifice.
That's the kind of feedback that I'm looking for, and I am certainly open to that. You know, back in back in that day, you know, here I am working for the FAA manager of
You yourself.
operations, and you know, first flight out to Washington. I'm sitting here when we had a plane go over that broke the sound barrier, and everybody in the building was like, "What is that?" I knew what it was, and I knew what they were doing, okay? That point in time, and having to have the visuals and the response, one of my programs was aircraft accident. The first plane to hit that tower, we were in denial. We're trying to figure what went wrong with our systems. It wasn't our systems. It was a whole nother change in our environment. All our radar systems were looking outward, not internal to the country. That was a major change in how we did business. So a lot of civilian folks had to turn too. And so I understand that, and there's a way we can do that. It was an emotional time for me flying in on the first flight to assist the administrator of the FAA, flying in over the Pentagon, looking down on what I saw was pretty shocking. The videos that we had back then, I hope they burned them all. They were terrible. So thank you for that comment, and it's going to give me some motivation to pull that together. But I'm looking for everybody's support and some thoughts and ideas to do that. Next, our music in the park, I want to say, has been well received. We have, Wednesday night, we had a Spanish band. I didn't understand a word they said, and everybody, all the young people out there just loved the music. And we had to have close to 200 people. The previous one, we had close to 200 people or more. Beautiful evening, beautiful nights. The community is very responsive to our, I don't want to call it a big bang, but it's fact, it's community oriented. We bring out our residents. And I was talking to my good friend Kitty, who we work with to set that up. We're the only community out there that does anything for this Spanish music. We're the only one. I don't know what that's all about, but I know we care about the people of our community. So I was pleased to hear that. Something I'm really always interested in is the sponsorship around Service Academy. Those young people that do exceptionally well in school have an opportunity with the support of the congressman to be nominated to attend the Army, Navy, Marine Service Academies. So on August 10th, Congressional Krishnamurthy will be sponsoring a Service Academy night for an hour and a half. And I'll be putting that out. I think we should share that to a great extent. Well, Christy, here's my notes. I tried to type them in for her, but I didn't have the time, and I had a lot more things I wanted to say this week. But there's a lot of good work going on there. There's some good dialogue. There's some very interesting thing our trustees are working on and supporting one another with. Thank you. Lisa and I visited Libby, who lost her son. Libby's 83. And she goes, oh my God, he helps me. I can't travel. I can't go to get my food or whatever. And she lost that young man. He was at our car show this weekend. And so she was in some pain. She says, why didn't he take me? Why didn't the good Lord take me? I'm the old person. So, Lisa, thank you for your support today. She's going to get help from the township of Wayne, and to bury her son on Sunday. So, and then I went to a funeral yesterday for our good friend. Well, let me move on. I'd like to move by ominous vote items on the consent agenda.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Christie, if you would, call the roll.
So on this, these are items 7A1 through item 7A8.
I seem to have a blank page for the rest of my agenda. I don't know what happens. All right, let me turn that over. Moving on to 7A9.
Vote.
Oh, you can take the vote, sorry.
Okay, so trustee Bancole?
Could I remove one thing from the consent agenda?
Okay, did
Just
you
to
forget
ask
that for the acceptance of the agenda is typically when we do that, just as a reminder?
No, she can do it anytime.
That's fine, yeah, that's fine. Which one did
Yeah.
you want to remove?
Yeah, 7A5.
7A5, okay.
Sorry
thank you.
about that.
No, that's okay.
That's what I was asking.
Okay, so now you're going to vote on 7A1, 7A2, 7A3, 7A4, 7A6, 7A7, and 7A8.
Great. All right, trustee Bancole? Yes. Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
All right, motion carried.
Very good. 75, move to pass an ordinance amending Article XV1117, raffles of the municipal code of the Village of Hanover Park, Illinois, by deleting it and adding in its place Article 17, charitable games, raffles, bingo, and other games of chance regulations.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion by the board.
Yeah.
Trustee Bancole, I think you might have something.
Yeah, it is one? Yeah. I just had a quick question. I can't find it now, but I know that the, oh, here it is. So the license increased from $5 to $25. It's just a big jump. And I know things usually happen like incrementally, year to year. So I was just wondering where the 25 number came from and if it's in line with other municipalities.
So, yeah, we were really low in comparison to other communities.
Okay.
So when we were putting this together and help from Bernie, we decided that that's what the communities around are doing. So, and we updated it to follow what everybody else is following as well.
I recall, trustee Bancole, that a few years back, we kind of baselined at $25 on the number of ours. There was a request that if it's, you know, kind of a gaming raffles kind of thing, we should bump it up to $100 or more. And my suggestion was, those individuals that are coming for a raffle are not for profit. So if you raise the amount, this board, many on this board, as witness, they come in and they say, can you waive the fee, you know? So if we keep it low enough, they'll want to enact it, and we don't have to have a discussion about waiving those fees.
Right.
And so that makes sense to us, and so the $25 is more in line with many of our, I don't think anybody's going to sleep over $25, right? Any other comments? Good question, trustee. Thank you. Any other thoughts on the raffle? Anyone? Hearing none? Christie, please call the roll.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 79, motion to approve the ratification of payment to Aries Incorporated for the emergency repair of sanitary sewer force main in the amount of $27,435.24.
So moved.
Second.
And authorize the village manager to execute the necessary documents. 2/3 vote of corporate authorities is required. We have a motion and a second. Any questions on the ordinance or agenda item? That was an emergency repair. I want to thank Public Works for their response on that. Forced sewer mains can get ugly. Better you than me in the middle of the night. So thank you. With that,
And this requires a 2/3 vote with the mayor voting.
You got
Christie?
it. Alrighty. Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Village President Craig?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 7A10, move to approve warrant 805-2021 in the amount of $975,850.18.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Questions on the warrant? Hearing none. Madam Clerk? Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Husani?
Yes.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you. 7A11, move to approve warrant paid in advance 7/08/2021 through 7/30/2021 in the amount of $1,610,208.23.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Discussion. Hearing none. Christie, please call the roll.
Trustee Gutierrez?
Yes.
Trustee Porter?
Yes.
Trustee Kemper?
Yes.
Trustee Bancole?
Yes.
Trustee Prigi?
Yes.
Trustee Husani? Motion passes.
Thank you. Village Manager's Report. Juliana, budget?
Actually, before we move to that item, we have had a slight modification in our practices for, in response to COVID-19, so I would ask that Chief Forrs give an update to the board just on where we're at right now.
Good evening, everyone. We start with what happened on Tuesday, July 27th, in that the CDC updated their recommendations to the whole country. That recommendation included a change to recommend that all vaccinated people that were living and working in areas of substantial or high transmission rates of COVID-19 begin to wear masks when they're in indoor public areas. So with that, shortly thereafter, on July 29th, DuPage County moved into the substantial classification of transmission, followed then by Cook County on the 30th, meeting those requirements to be deemed a substantial transmission area. Both county health departments, as well as IDPH, have aligned themselves with that CDC recommendation, and then seeing that we also were noticing the exact same thing in our community, and that We had 44 new cases in the last week. That we aligned with those other health recommendations to include that recommendation for us here at the village.
Very good. Any questions for Eric?
I have a question.
Yes.
So at the federal level, there is a requirement that staff or folks working in our buildings and police, et cetera, either show proof of vaccination or be subjected to testing. Is that something that we're looking to do here?
Not at this time.
Any other questions on the board? Trustee Porter?
With the new recommendations that have come out, and since we don't, and it's, if I'm being redundant, excuse me, since we don't ask for any proof of vaccination by employees currently, for employees here in the Village Hall that are vaccinated, are we increasing the testing? Are we considering asking our employees to be tested? Are we encouraging the employees to take the test? I mean, I'm sorry, get the shot, not the test, but to get the shot to get vaccinated. Are we encouraging them to get vaccinated? And for those who offer resistance to vaccination, are we increasing the method and the amount of testing that we're doing to make sure that, you know, we're keeping everyone safe?
So we do two things. One, first of all, we do have we do ask that the employees voluntarily give us information into a confidential database that only HR has access to for, and maybe even somebody from fire, for their vaccinations, so we can get a sense of the percentage of our organization that is vaccinated.
So we do know that percentage?
I don't know it off the top of my head right now, but we can find that out unless you know.
I don't know off the top of my head, but Barry can speak to it. It's in very high percentage of most employees in the village have become vaccinated, at least with their first shot, many obviously with the full dose.
Second, we have been monitoring when we receive reports from the community. We're also receiving reports for the organization. We have not seen an uptick at all. We have not had any cases amongst the employees of the organization. That being said, we did take the precaution of going back to mask wearing. And so an individual who's at their desk, who's able to be 6 feet apart from another employee, can take their mask off. But when they're walking around even the non-public areas, they're supposed to have their mask on if they're coming in closer contact with other employees. That being said, we always encourage vaccinations. We were encouraging employees when we were having the actual events in our community to get vaccinated. We have not required vaccinations. And now you can go to Walgreens, you can go to Osco and get a vaccination. So there are those opportunities, and we'll give an employee the opportunity to go get that or provide them the information if they need it. We did have the discussion at the on the DuPage County side with the managers this morning at a meeting about the requirement of vaccinations amongst employees. The consensus of all the communities in DuPage County was that this is not something for one local government to take on and require individually, that this really needs to be something at the state level. So if the state would need to come out with some guidelines that we could all follow. And so with that, we have a manager who's a representative on the IML Legislative Committee, as well as a contact with IML and Brad Cole, and they were going to have that discussion at that level with him about what at the state level they are considering doing. So at this time, with our numbers with no one having it, I think we're confident that we're safe here. And even through that first wave of COVID infection, we did really well with our practices. So we will continue to put those practices back in place as we see that we may need them. Hopefully, we're short-lived on this and that we'll be able to go back to where we were, and that this is just a small blip. We'll continue to monitor that.
Yeah, what prompted the question was that I got that communication from IML and Brad Cole that came into our mailboxes this afternoon.
I share that, yeah.
Yeah, about their policies for face coverings and some of the mitigation efforts that they're recommending that they would take, and they're sending that out as a model. So as long as we're following that model and that we're in compliance with the best governance that we're getting from those type of organizations, I just want to make sure, I'd be very interested when you can to know that percentage of employees that are vaccinated. That would be interesting to know.
After the last vaccination event that we held at Hanover Park District, I think that was like 8 weeks ago, at that time, our percentage was 2/3 of our employees had been vaccinated. I've sent out a reminder since then so we can catch up with some of our new employees that if they have been vaccinated to enter that information. So 2/3 was the last.
So we're above the state average anyway, if we're at 2/3.
Absolutely, yeah.
That does place us a little bit above the
And
state
there are,
average.
there are communities that are saying to their employees, if you're vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask. We're treating both vaccinated and unvaccinated individuals across the board the same.
That's great.
Thank you.
Okay, good dialogue, thank you.
Any other information about numbers or anything like that you want to share?
No, yeah, the only other data pieces were that since the announcement from the CDC, we've ramped up our data collection yet again, and we're checking those numbers every day. We have noticed that the latest report was that, yeah, we had 44 new cases within the village of Hanover Park within the last week, 0 deaths. So again, we'll continue to track that. Those are what the triggers are for us to bring on more mitigation efforts or more substantial types of constrictions.
Chief Force, can we also, when you do that, is there a way to find out the age group? Because we have the under 12 that are not vaccinated, so.
So both counties will report a lot of data based on the age, and the state gives statewide data for within age groups. Unfortunately, it does not drill down to our exact zip code
Okay.
by age, but we'd be more than happy to look at that
More or
as well
less,
as,
yeah, on each
absolutely.
side. Thank you.
Very good. All right,
Moving
budget.
As you know, as I mentioned, the last meeting, we've begun the budget process at the staff level, at the committee levels. Everybody's working to put their numbers together and work through this process, and we had provided to you a calendar of how that essentially was going to play out. One of the steps we've always had on the calendar was to give an opportunity at a public board meeting for the public to come in and provide any input regarding the budget process. Usually we hear that input through other channels, not necessarily at this meeting, but we've never really taken it off of the calendar. We usually hear input through all of you, through the committees, and during the budget discussions, when we can provide all of the details on where we're at and what we're recommending. This year, we're going through a strategic planning process, so while we are working on numbers, we're also going to understand that we may have to make some modifications later in the year to accommodate maybe something that comes out of the strategic plan that will involve or need funding. One of the items that the board had asked to have discussion, though, was on the ARP fund, the American Rescue Plan funding that the village will receive. We did receive notification to put in as a non-entitlement community. And again, that is several communities who are over 50,000 have received their funding already. And so those communities that are under 50,000 are considered a non-entitlement community. That money goes through to the state, and then the state distributes it to the village. So we did receive notice to apply for the funds that were allocated to us. We have done that. We actually did it the day that it was announced. So Remy, thank you for moving quickly on that. According to those numbers, the village will be allocated $5,087,847.99. This is ever changing, but that allocation will be divided, we're being told, into two amounts. One in the next couple months. They've said at the end of August, but we've heard other information that it might be later. So sometime this year, receiving that first allocation, and then the second allocation a year from now. I will be recommending that those funds, based on the guidelines, there is $4.9 million worth of expense in the water fund for infrastructure improvements this year and next year for the water meter program. We are a community that's been fortunate enough to be younger, let's say, and our infrastructure has always allowed us to not have large expenses. And so, but we've aged, and now we're experiencing that need to do replacements. So the board did approve $4.9 million for water meter replacements. It will be our recommendation that at least $4.9 million of that be spent, of this money be allocated. It's one of the few uses that we can use. The other, also in addition to that, there's a lot of reporting that needs to be done for these funds. And so if we can take one project, do the project, and report the funding, rather than over several years or months trying to report on very small, smaller amounts for different things, just administratively, I think that it will be to the village's benefit. So that being said, the question will be, well, we allocated $4.9 million already. We approved it in this budget. I've been told by Public Works, we've had our capital meeting internally already. There is a lot of need for water and sewer infrastructure improvements. And this year we put off streets to be repaired that were in worse condition than what are being repaired. I mean, we have a lot of streets that need to be redone, but we put off those that needed water and sewer work because we don't want to go and do work on the same street twice. So we don't want to go through and do repairs to a street, whether it's a resurface or reconstruction, and then come back in a future year and do the water and sewer work and tear that roadway up, that brand new roadway up, and then have a patch or something. It doesn't continue to be as stable. So we have been told that we are hopeful that we will get some grant funding for streets this next year, and the hope is to then take the funding that we are going to free up we could free up with this American Rescue Funds and put them together and do a street program that does the water and sewer and addresses some of those critical infrastructure needs that are in the community. I say this just, it's obviously not, you will have plenty of time to review my recommendation for the budget and go through all the capital and see what those streets are or how much is being allocated. But I know that you all you wanted to talk about how that money was spent, how much we were getting, and so I want to have that conversation with you. Will we get that $5-point-some million? I hope. Will we get it when they say we're going to get it? I hope. But until we actually get that funding in our accounts, I will not recommend actually spending it and doing it. And then if there's additional funding above that water meter project, we could talk about, do we want to put that towards infrastructure, additional infrastructure in the water and sewer fund, or is there another purpose or need in the community that we want to allocate that to.
So how can we work our budget so that we don't need to bond for a fire station?
So we'll bring that back. It's my goal not to have to bond. I would like to pay cash for the fire station, and I will bring to you that recommendation on how to do that as part of the budget process. But no, that is my goal.
Any opportunity to not raise taxes for a fire station, I think, are paramount in this community. People respect the fact that we have not raised taxes in 5 years. However, I'm getting to the point with the continuous increases in pension dollars that ought to be if nothing else, if we have to raise taxes to cover pensions. I don't want us to fall so far behind where all of a sudden we can't pay the pensions or something.
Oh, we won't get to that point. We will pay our pension
Okay,
obligations.
all right. It's just a concern I have, and, to cover the pensions. I know the increase this year for fire is $66,000. I don't know what the police component is. Does anybody know what the police component
Yeah,
of
I think that,
increase?
I don't, I wasn't prepared to talk
I know,
this
I'm
evening
just-
about specifics. There are a lot of moving parts to the budget. It's why it takes us several months to put the document together. A lot is based on, each other, and so it's a big puzzle that we spend a lot of time putting together. But I will assure you that there are, pensions obviously are a priority, and those will come out first, and then, we'll see how much funding is left for all of the other. It is an opportunity with this American Rescue Plan money, though, for our community to do some significant long-term capital project work. And so it's one-time money. We won't get it again. It won't be there next year. And so if we can take a chunk out of what we need long-term in our community, it means that we don't have to potentially increase water rates or do water bonds or things like some other communities are having to do. And if we can try to keep up on it, we can push that down the road farther, that need to increase. So that would be my recommendation. We will have a recommendation on the fire station, and you should see at the next meeting, or hopefully the next meeting, the agreement with the team that will be actually designing and building that station. So you will get that, you will see that agreement coming at the next meeting or the meeting after.
Good.
I believe I've asked the question in the past of TJ, and forgive me if I'm saying it again, but what's the status of lead pipe replacement here in the village? Is it an issue? Is it not? And if so, what plans do you have, and what steps have we taken to alleviate that?
We're very fortunate in that there are no lead pipes. All right, let me correct that. There are no lead services in the village of Hanover Park, unlike other communities, older communities. Our community is of an age that they were already out of service by the time that we developed. And although there are a few homes in town that were built of the vintage when lead services would have been around, at the time there wasn't a village of Hanover Park, as it is today. So they were on well and septic. So when they did finally come into the community as part of the water system, they would have come in with a modern material. So it's not that they would then have to replace a lead service that existed before the community existed. They would have been on a well, and I can tell you this very matter of factly because we have a almost 50-year employee that's still in the water department and who has been in the basement of many, many, many of the homes in town. He will tell you matter of factly, and I'll convey it here, that he has never seen both in that we were not of the vintage where lead services would exist, but he has never seen a lead service in town, and he has seen almost all of them. So I'm very comfortable saying that.
Thank you.
Okay, treasurer's report?
I have a couple questions.
Regarding the treasurer's report or the budget process?
Your report.
That's,
Both are under my
go
report.
ahead, just
Both
ask
are
your
in your
question.
report. Oh, sorry. Sorry, just two questions. Going back, you said that there is a time set aside for the public to comment on the budget process?
That's tonight. I mean, there, in the schedule, this meeting is always scheduled for the public if they want to come and give ideas about the budget. Usually, but then there's also the opportunity for the budget, of the public to come and speak and comment on the recommended budget, which I think is more, useful, I would say, during the process, which would be when do we bring this budget? There's a public hearing and several steps that are later on in the process.
Okay, so tonight is ideas night.
Right.
For the public.
Right. I think we will, I saw a report, email from Dave, earlier today. I think we have 300 and some citizens that have responded so far to the survey. I think that'll be good information to get ideas of what's important to the public, through that. And so as I will get that information and see, if we're on the same track as they are.
But going back to tonight, so like the purpose of tonight's meeting serving as this space for the public to comment, did we notify the public that tonight was designated for ideas?
So that would have been communicated to the public as part of the budget calendar and the part of the budget process. I don't believe that we've gone out, say, on a Facebook page post and said, please come tonight and give your ideas regarding the budget. Okay. And
So-
again, I think this has been in this calendar for several years, and when we talk about, well, what does the calendar include, and what is the purpose for this evening, we can talk about whether the public, like this is, I don't think this is necessarily the best time in the process for the public to come. They're welcome to come and we'll listen to what they have to say, but I think we'll get more quality feedback through the survey process, as well as they're having a dialogue once they have some detailed information that we can bring forward.
Okay. So, and you said that we're gonna have another meeting where we will notify the public.
So, yes, so there's a formal public hearing that,
And how will we notify the public?
it's also put on the signs, it's put out on all of our social media would have that public hearing notified.
Okay, so we're going to do that for that public hearing, but we didn't do it for this one.
Well, this isn't a public hearing.
Excuse me.
This is just,
This is just a time for ideas.
right.
Okay. So, in the future, I guess if it's always on the calendar, in the future, is there a way that we could also use our social media platforms and the different ways that we communicate with the public to notify them about this public meeting as well? Because I just think it's hard to come to something that you don't know about. And
Right,
so,
yeah.
I know you said that the public hearing that we'll have in a couple of months, like, we'll use all our different methods, but, maybe a resident can't come to, that future meeting, but they could have come to this one, but they didn't even know this one was happening. So is that something that just could be considered?
I think it could be considered. I think, though, we should have a discussion about whether it would be useful at this point in the process. I think that, again, it would be my recommendation to get individuals from the community to come forward and speak speak and provide comment once we have some information on what's being proposed or a program, or the department heads will all come before you and talk about what they're working on in their community, or in their department, what they're recommending, what, if there's any new programs that they're providing for, and then there's a lot of discussion in the budget process when we get to community groups and community contributions and to that. For a resident to come up and say, I think we need to do X, is hard to then take without going through a whole program process and evaluation and everything to put it into a budget when we've already started the budget process.
Right, no, and I get what you're saying. I'm just saying that in the future, could we maybe just try to incorporate the things that we're already doing to just make sure that our community is aware of the opportunity to address the board? Because I just think that just hearing you say that tonight was the night for essentially ideas night, that was the first time that I was learning about it. And you know, I might have missed that, maybe it was sent to us, but
Yeah.
just
We
in
have-
the future,
Yeah,
just
and
a consideration.
Yeah, I agree, and maybe we'll move it to a different part of the process, so it's more useful. I do find, though, that this evening is useful to hear to have the discussions that we're having right now with the board, about kind of, as we go into this process, make sure you're thinking about this, or for me to be able to share some of these, some highlights or some things that, you know, we're considering as part of it.
Juliana, earlier in the year, we had a single piece of paper, kind of I call it a checklist of the budget process through the year. All board members may not have that.
Yeah, they did, they've all received
Oh,
this.
they all received it? You recall?
I don't, I'm
Well-
gonna have to, I guess, use
Well,
digging.
anybody doesn't recall.
We can resend it, it's
If
the
you would,
budget
please. I
calendar.
think that'd be very helpful.
Is that something that we can share with the public?
Sure, I believe it was in a packet.
Yeah,
I
it's,
think
because it's
out
part of the
there.
agenda. So one thing I
It's-
find helpful is, that I'm finding that like my neighborhoods tend to follow on social media, but they also follow me on social media to let them know, hey, you might want to look into this, et cetera. So it also helps for us as trustees to be putting this out there as well, to say your voice is needed, your ideas are needed, et cetera. So if we can share that again, Juliana, that'd be great.
We can do that. This calendar's more the working of the organization internally, of how we're gonna get this
Right,
budget
but it
done.
helps us just to pick the date and then we can add it.
Yeah, and the workshops are
Right.
on there too. It may change though, so whatever
I
you send
understand.
out, this isn't set in stone of these dates. We shift it around as we go forward.
Thank you. And I did have another question. You were saying before, and please correct me if I'm wrong, that we will be receiving an ARP money, a little over $5 million, but that the current recommendation is to allocate $4.9 million of that $5 million to the water meters project?
Yes, so what we know right now is that the water meter project is $4.9 million. I think there might be some contingency in there, just like any large capital project.
They never
My
come in under
recommenda-
budget.
My intent to share with you this evening is that my recommendation will be to take at least or whatever the amount from that ARP allocation and allocate it towards this project to cover that 4.9 million. If we actually receive 5,087,000, that means there's additional funds that aren't going to go to that project in addition. We will, through the budget process, have a discussion about, is there do we need funding for infrastructure and there's a shortfall, and we should allocate it there, or is there funding that can fund something that comes out of the strategic plan that we hadn't allocated already that comes up? There might be, I anticipate that there might be something that all of you bring up during the strategic planning process that's going to need funding. So, and so it's either going to be, in order to fund it for next year, I'm gonna have to take it from someplace else that's already allocated
So did we not budget?
Pardon me?
I get what you're saying, but the 4.9 million, did we not previously budget for the cost of the water
The
meters?
$4.9 million is being taken out of fund balance in the water fund, yes.
But it was budgeted for?
It was budgeted, yes.
Okay. So it's not like we would be in the red going through with this project, it was already budgeted for?
If the $4.9 million was spent as budgeted, you would have no funding to do water and sewer infrastructure from the fund. You would have to then increase water rates, or you would have to issue water bonds in order to to meet the infrastructure, water and sewer needs over the next couple of years.
Okay, understood. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Good question. Thanks.
Trying to avoid that.
Treasurer's report?
Any questions on it? We will have the quarterly, more detailed one at the next meeting. This is just the monthly.
Thank you. All right. Village-
And then we do have a closed session at the end of the meeting. We will be having the closed session in this room, and it will be pending improbable litigation.
Village clerk's report? Christie?
Yes. So we have been busy. We had the car show this weekend, which we had 130 cars who attended. Thank you to all the trustees that came and helped. PD, fire, public works, wow. I've never run an event before where we've had so much community help and everybody showed up ready. It was amazing. So thank you, thank you. HPCRC raised just under $4,000 for their camps next year. So that was a great turnout, and we're looking forward to doing it again next year. And that
Good.
is all I have today.
Very good. Thank you, Christie. That was, you were the first one out and the last one to leave.
Always.
Corporation Council report.
No report, thank you.
Okay. Trustee reports. Trustee Porter.
I don't have anything. Just congratulations to Christie for running an excellent car show. I think it was one of the better ones that I've attended over the last few years. So congratulations to you. I know your hard work, you and Lisa, and I know you guys to get the vendors out and to do that. So I'm looking to see what you guys have in store for next year.
Ready to start.
Nice comments.
Thank you, Trustee Porter, despite wearing that shirt. Thank you.
Trustee Kemper.
Other than, because that it's a slow month, right? So, I just have a Veterans Committee meeting coming up on Saturday. I will not be at the next board meeting. I will be out of town on a much-needed summer vacation that my wife had never taken in the entire time we've been married. We never took a summer vacation. So we're taking one.
Thank you.
And that is all I have to report.
Every time I bring that up, it's like, enjoy your trip. Trustee Benko. There you go.
So a couple weeks ago, myself, the mayor, and Trustee Porter attended Commissioner Morrison's Transportation Town Hall. And it was focused on regional infrastructure and public transportation, and it was such a great event, and I'm so glad that it happened here. And I want to thank the mayor for his comments and all the information that he was able to provide during that event. And just want to thank our village staff and everyone else that played a role in making it such a successful event. So thank you for that. I attended the first, well, not the first, but I guess the first in a while, the first DuPage Mayors and Managers Conference, the Legislative Committee. It was mainly a recap of the Illinois General Assembly's spring session, what passed, what didn't pass, how it impacts municipalities. and also, you know, they talked about LGDF, everyone's favorite topic, and how they really advocated for that fund to just not be touched. So that was a great meeting, learning a lot, and again, thank you, Mayor, for having me appointed to that legislative committee. Last week, the Environmental Committee met, and we discussed just a wide range of topics. We have a electronic recycling event coming up in a couple of months. We have our annual river sweep coming up. And I was shocked to learn that during some of these river sweep events, they've pulled out whole mattresses. They've
Washing
pulled
machines.
washing machines,
Yeah.
shopping carts, bicycles. I mean, I was also shown photos, and I was truly shocked that there could be just a mattress in a river. I mean, so it's the river sweep is truly important, and I will continue to remind everyone just as it's coming up. I did also just want to quickly mention that there has been some renewed chatter, I should say, about the gun range that's coming to Hanover Park at Lake and Bartels. I think, you know, much can be said about this development, but I just wanted to, you know, just briefly state that there has been, I've received an abundance of texts and emails just from our residents, their thoughts, their concerns. And I just want to say on record that the concerns of our constituents are valid. And I think there's maybe a little bit of a notion that because much of the development has already been approved, that, you know, we're just going to forge ahead. But I just want to say on record that all the concerns that our constituents are bringing to the board are valid, and I just think that it's important that we as a board continue to make sure that we are addressing their concerns and just putting our best foot forward in that regard. And I also quickly wanted to mention that earlier today, some of you might have seen that AFL CIO President Richard Trumka died. He was 72. And over a week ago, here in Illinois, a man by the name of Bill Habel also passed away. He was a really great leader in DuPage County, and he was also the president of the North Central Illinois Labor Council, also a part of AFL-CIO. And he did a lot to support many local electeds throughout DuPage County. He offered a lot of guidance, a lot of support, and I also just wanted to take a moment because those are two juggernauts in the world of labor and just fighting for the rights of working families. So if we all could just take a moment. And thank you for the moment of silence, and that concludes my report.
Thank you, trustee. Trustee Priggy?
Thank you, Christie. The Scouts running me, thank you for involving them. They did very well, even though you brought on some competition for them. But, and they look forward to next year's.
Very good. And thank you for having your scouts out there serving hamburgers.
And you sold out.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well,
Even with the competition.
We didn't buy as much as we normally did. But yeah, we did well. We did okay.
Trustee Husani,
All right,
you're going to cover a meeting for me, right?
which one?
That's okay.
All right, last board meeting, before I start commenting, I made a comment that I just want to correct before I start a report for today. When I was representing Development Commission as a liaison, board meeting minutes, I mentioned heated, passionate, and productive conversation that we had. Heated was the wrong word to use. Robust, passionate, and productive. I just want to make sure nobody feels that I'm not taking it seriously. I just want to make sure my team as Development Commission feels I'm taking it seriously. I just want to make sure that I correct it before I move forward, even though thank you so much for not including that on the meeting minutes. I did check it, so I didn't make the corrections, but I just wanted to be on the record. That's it. All right, moving on.
Robust is good.
Moving on. So there were 2 workshops held for Development Commission to discuss the licensing of tobacco that we talked about. So one was July 8th and July 29th. July 29th, I wasn't able to attend, but thank you, Shubhra, for sending the notes. So I could talk about that here. The main points, bullet points that we need to know that might be, that will be submitted to move forward on August 12th, I believe. Just to board heads up, main points are what the Development Commission workshop brought out. Here's the bullet points. Raising the licensing fee for tobacco and vaping from $100 right now to $500. That is a recommendation, so discussions will happen later on, but it's just the recommendations. Develop a separate licensing for vaping and paraphernalia products. A licensing fee of $500 per year would apply to those products. Limit the primary tobacco shops. Primary is more than 80% of the sales are tobacco. That's primary. So limit the primary tobacco shops to 4 in village, 2 in each county. If one should close, would be up to village board to add another if necessary. This is similar to how the liquor licensing works right now.
We auto-decor, Matt.
This would grandfather the 4 existing locations as max. We have 2 in each county currently. Establish some location criteria, and the details are more to come, and sensitivity around schools and daycares and everything else. More details to come on that. Anything I missed, Shubhra, that you want to add before we move on? Okay.
Your report.
Thank you. All right. Thank you. CIDC stakeholders event is set for September 21st from 6 to 8. We will be providing food from Nahi's, our restaurant in Hanover Park, Indian food. So that has been updated. And Leon Andrews of Equal Measure has agreed to be the speaker, main speaker of the event. So that will be great as well.
I think we know him.
Yes. So more details to follow.
Very good.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lisa Gutierrez, trustee.
Yes, thank you. Big thank you to everybody that helped at the car show. I want to do a shout out to Hill and Sam, who brought out the very ancient historic diorama of Ontario'ville, which, believe it or not, people actually liked. And they were looking at it and eyeing over it. So I'm so excited that we did that. And to our historic committee member that was there as well, and everybody that participated. Thank you, Chief Minot, also, because I did my ride-along with Officer Diaz. This young man's been with the force for a little bit over a year, and his Spanish is amazing. He was in a very delicate situation, and he was able to interview both parties in Spanish. I saw how he, during his lunch break, instead of taking time, he literally inhaled his food because he wanted to get back out there to work and do what he was doing, and he kept me safe. I was there from 6 p.m. till 3 in the morning with him, and these guys are amazing. So to all our staff, they're wonderful, but these guys that are younger and they're doing the night shifts, they're our heroes, and they're really keeping us safe. So thank you. I've been working again with the Old Salem Plaza, just in revitalizing that area and seeing how we can help. They want to do a business bash, and I know that they started the permit process for August 14th. It's a Saturday. If this goes through, we'll send out the flyers, et cetera. And it's just a great way to support them. Which brings me to also the DEI at the Metro Mayor's Caucus that I've been a part of. I did send out for information only. We wanted to take a look at the vocabulary around DEI so that we are all speaking the same language when it comes to that. And I just want to keep you guys aware of that. And we have ongoing training focusing on strategic planning. And speaking of strategic plan, I want to focus on our small businesses and see if there is any funding left over to do some kind of initiative with them. Maybe we're a beautiful little town, but we're a very 1960-ish town. So if we can start fixing the facade in a lot of our areas and maybe the signs, et cetera, for them as well, or if there's any money in the TIF, whatever there is that we can help them. I also would like to start streamlining our permits. I have been walking through permits with small businesses and with residents, and it's an enigma wrapped in a puzzle because we divided the collector's position. And so I think we need to streamline that so that we have better customer service overall. So I want to look at that in our strategic plan. I also want to look as part of the strategic plan to see if we can set a rule that socks, shirts are not allowed on here. We could do Cubs, that's all. That's the end of my report.
We'd be here another hour if Rick Roberts was sitting. Thank you, Lisa, for that robust report. And next is a motion to go to executive session. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
And that is section 2C11, pending
Probable
probable
litigation.
or imminent litigation.
Imminent.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Porter.
Yes.
Trustee Kemper.
Yes.
Trustee Bancole. Trustee Prigi.
Yes.
Trustee Husani.
Yes.
And Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes.
Motion carried.
We have a motion to adjourn.
Are we going to return?
We will not be returning. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Christie, call the roll.
Trustee Kemper.
Yes.
Trustee Bancole. Trustee Prigi.
Yes.
Trustee Husani. Trustee Gutierrez.
Yes.
Trustee Porter.
Yes.
The meeting is adjourned at
Thank you all.
8:27 p.m.
Very professional group. I like leading this group. Uh-oh, here comes the money lady. We're meeting in here.